welcome to the Common Bridge. On the YouTube side, we got episode 11. And Rich, I know that I put this in front of you every now and then, and we're going to do it again. It's quick takes. You and I haven't talked like this in a while, and there's a lot of subjects out there, and hopefully you can enlighten us on how you feel about a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to start at the top.
Top of what? What top? What are you going
There's a bunch of it, right?
I mean, this sounds like a long list or something. So what exactly are you talking about?
I'm just looking at the news of today, and I'm going to start with the
Ah,
Royals. Let's start with the Royals. That's been dominating the news. The Meghan and Harry interview and the impact. What do you think?
I have to tell you, I have never paid any attention to the Royals. I pay more attention to the Kansas City Royals, okay, over the years. But I have no clue who half the players are. It really doesn't affect my life, and so I have nothing to say. I don't know anything about it. Okay,
All
so there you go.
well, all right. Well, that's just fine.
If I need to care about this, I'm going to have to find some way. I'm sorry, I just don't. Never have. Okay.
Okay, we haven't talked since Trump was at CPAC, and that was last weekend. Any thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. First of all, it comes in complete with like a golden idol icon of Donald Trump in an Uncle Sam red, white, and blue tailcoats. Um, Hideous, disconnected, disjointed. Uh, I don't know who did that or who financed it. Um, it might have been John Barron or someone that did that. Um, but look, Donald Trump as a person, his phenomena is fading. He doesn't know that. The show was on, the show's over. He forgot that he got into the presidency not because people said, "Hey, we want a president that acts like that," but we don't want Hillary Clinton to be the president. I think he converted that into thinking it's him and all about him. Um, but he's not bringing anybody new into the tent. And I
Do,
think we're,
do you think he's
maybe
going
the
to be a prime?
pandemic and
But do you
Trump will
think
go
he's going
away
to
at the
be
same time.
do you think he's going to be an impact, or it's going to be an issue in the Republican primaries across the country? He's still going to be the issue in the
No,
primaries, not the general.
no, no.
Okay.
Look, there's three parties that need to let Donald Trump go. Okay. They're the Republicans, the Democratic Party, and the news media. They've all gone to town on Trump to their own purposes, and it's over. Let's move on. He's had his 15 minutes, and let's go on from here. I don't know what more good can come out of it.
Hmm.
Um, he had his chance. He had chance after chance, and he just, and I thought he did a lot of things right, policy wise, and clearly getting the vaccines out was something that was extraordinary. If people knew what it really takes to get a vaccine out,
Hmm.
um, but his handling of the crisis, just the messaging was so bad that we just need to move on from this guy.
Yeah. Hey, I'm wondering. Last night, President Biden gave his first speech. I thought it was a layup for him if he would have at least, and he didn't have to mention Trump, but he could have said, thanks to all of the scientists, all the research, and everything that went in last year to bring these vaccines to bear. He let that pass. And I thought that was maybe wasn't. I thought that was a layup. It wouldn't have hurt anybody. It just would have helped him to say thanks to everybody else before me, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunately he's still somewhat beholden to his base, and particularly the left wing of the party and that very rabid anti-Trump group. Um, that you think about what the Biden campaign was about. It was, we're not going to be Donald Trump. Okay, check that box. And he was going to do something mysterious about the pandemic.
Mm.
He also said that he wanted to unify. And I thought that when he got into talking about the nuts and bolts of what they're going to do in this next wave, um, he came across like a chief executive, like somebody that's thought through something, that there's actually a plan, not just words and rhetoric. Um, but in terms of the broader items, which, high on the list would be unifying the country, had he been more truthful and said, look, when we got this, we didn't know what to do, and a number of things were tried. But thankfully, the prior administration got the vaccine development right. And December 20th, we've got the first two emergency use authorizations out. And, before I got inaugurated, we had made, a little tiny dent in the vaccination distribution, 8%, to what just wasn't that much time. And now we've advanced it to this level, and here's where we go from here. And where he could have really been truthful would have been to say, and something, we took a page from the playbook of the prior administration, and now we're going to have J&J and Merck working together to produce more vaccines. Had he done that, he would have given the country the assurance that there is an idea and a plan moving forward. He also would have given credit where credit's due, and maybe bring some of the
That's what I was thinking,
Trump supporters into the under the umbrella or into the tent. And then the other things he does, as it rankles me to hear it's a red state or a blue state, and I just wonder how many people in America wake up and go, I'm in a blue state, I'm in a red state. That is just a shorthand that media and partisans have applied. It's oversimplification. It can't lead any place good. And I really don't like hearing our president talk like that. So that troubled me. And then when he said, well, we're going to let you know what you can and cannot do, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think if you go back and you read, there's some things about these truths are self-evident, and that powers don't come from governments. These are prepared remarks that have theoretically been vetted.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a red flag.
I thought so too. And I thought that the White House was saying a couple of times in the last couple of days how much time that the president was taking by himself to go through line by line in that speech to really make it come from his heart. And I think he missed on that one. I think you're right.
Yeah, but look, overall, I think America breathed a sigh of relief. It was not about Joe Biden. It was about the pandemic and where we are and where we go forward. And I thought it was a welcome relief.
Yeah, it seemed normal.
There was the earlier thing we were talking about. Just let Trump go. Who cares?
Yep.
Okay, it's over. And there's the revenge seekers and whatever, and that'll play out.
Yeah. Let me go back a couple of weeks. I wanted to ask you about the power outages in Texas. That was kind of a big deal, and what Cruz ended up doing and everything. It's been a while, and I think maybe the governor of Texas tried to make it better the last few days. What are your thoughts about that whole fiasco?
Well, a couple things on that. So first of all, our two largest states by population, California and Texas, both are not able to deliver reliable power to their own citizens. And we're looking at two very different governing philosophies, two different parties, and both get a fail. Rolling blackouts all throughout California, and literally no end in sight, and an expectation that it's going to get worse. Pivoting around a certain set of beliefs and a broader ideology. And then in Texas, really the antithesis of California. Look, you have citizens that didn't have heat, light, power, water for days when temperatures were dropping dangerously, into the lower 20s. And the shame about that is that Governor Abbott in Texas' first response was, I'm going to blame my political opponent. And and that just speaks to the bigger problem that we're trying to address on the common bridge. He didn't talk about policies. He didn't talk about where we went wrong. He didn't say, maybe we don't need to give your average residential consumer 200 choices about who they buy their natural gas from. He's like, yeah, I know how I can sidestep this. I'll blame my political opponents.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know hopefully we'll get talked about in New York, but Governor Cuomo did the same thing.
We'll get
I
there.
didn't want to be truthful with health data and the results of my policies because my political opponents might use them.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. We'll get back to that in a minute, Rich. I want to cover some things that are a little bit.
You mentioned, by the way, Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And I mean, but bonehead play, okay, and look, Cruz is not the only one here. He's got a lot more of it. But look, the mayor of Austin, Texas, was telling people they need to stay inside and not travel, and he's broadcasting from Cabo San Lucas in Mexico.
Yeah, that didn't get a lot of coverage. You're right. Right.
The mayor of Denver tells people, don't be traveling, don't be gathering with your families at Thanksgiving, and then gets on a plane to go visit his family. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, locks down California, and then he's at the French Laundry, with lobbyists indoors for a long dinner. So all of them, and Cruz, in particular, this is just lack of leadership. And part of leadership is that you don't ask your people that you're entrusted with their well-being to do things that you won't do yourself. All right. And that's where it has to be some kind of privileged, unaccountable mindset that someone would look at this and go, yeah, that's okay. I'm going to take my family to Mexico while my constituents are literally at risk for their lives.
That's right.
Because they don't have basic services.
That's right. There's a variation on that theme out of Chicago last week. The head of the teachers union was, doing a press conference, I believe, about how his teachers are not going to go back in the classroom until everybody's vaccinated. They're working hard, blah, blah, blah. And he was doing that from Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I mean, look, and this is, again, Brian, the Common Bridge was started because we said the Republicans aren't getting the job done. The Democrats aren't getting the job done. We do not have a decent media anymore. We have this, sports-oriented challenge, my team versus your team. Yeah. And who's the suckers in this? Because I'd like to point out, with all this noise and all this activity and all this smoke, guess what? We don't have an answer for healthcare. We don't have an answer for immigration. We don't have an answer for firearms. We don't have an answer for income inequality. We don't have an answer for student debt. Okay. We don't have an answer for infrastructure. We don't have an answer comprehensive for climate change. All right. So while all this noise is going on, the real work is being overlooked, and it will continue to be overlooked as long as we as Americans keep consuming it. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we stop consuming it and demanding better behavior and better service, we'll get it.
Okay. So I'm going to throw a little more fire on that flame then. And good thing we're in different states. You wouldn't take a swing at me. California Assembly Bill 1084. And that considers banning it has to do with gender equality in bathrooms and equal rights and so, which I think the spirit of it's fantastic. Going to separate boys and girls sections and things like that. But there's some inherent problems with it. Do you think that we're kind of muddying that message up? Or are we going about a policy solution incorrectly? And is there a problem in that?
I mean, again, first of all, it comes down to, this is where you're spending your time. That's your most important thing. I mean, when we have Pepe Le Pew running rampant on our comic pages, you want to deal with what's in a department store. Look, we just celebrated International Women's Day,
Hmm.
and for lots of good reasons. And I'm very proud of my sisters, my daughters, the women that have been in my employ and such, and that I've worked for, some of my best mentors. Okay, and they deserve. And now we want to tell them, hey, um, you're no different, and we're not going to. And what else can we talk about?
All right.
How
I'm
about
gonna
something good? How about
let's talk about
Merrick
the
Garland
yeah. Let's
was
talk about
approved?
Senate confirmation hearings. There's a bunch of
Yes.
them. Have at it.
Uh,
Go ahead.
um, and look, so little fanfare that Merrick Garland got his up or down vote. It wasn't for a seat on the Supreme Court, but it was for Attorney General.
Hmm.
It was 70-30.
Yep.
And, I'm hopeful that he will be an even-handed person in the role. Um, I've heard nothing but good things about him, that he is that kind of human being. But 70-30, like,
Hmm.
there you go. There's
Yep.
bipartisanship.
What about Neera Tanden?
But we also had, if you remember, Neera Tanden
Yep.
withdrew her nomination to head the White House Budget Office because she had fallen into this trap of, I can say hateful, vicious things as long as I'm aiming them at a Republican.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember if I said this or posted it, but people realize when they put something on social media, it lives. Okay. And if you tell someone, hey, you're high in your own supply, there may be a time they're going to be sitting across from you saying, so you need my vote for a confirmation. But my favorite, okay, of all time is of recent weeks, Kristen Clark, who was
Yeah.
or is an assistant attorney general candidate for the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. Her tweets bought into, ta-da, the Jussie Smollett
Yeah.
hoax. And the hilarious thing about this is it wasn't one. I mean, look, I remember when that story broke. It was 2 a.m. in Chicago, in the middle of a polar vortex, that guys wearing MAGA hats said, this is MAGA country, and assaulted a guy for his race and his homosexuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, that didn't happen. There aren't prowlers out there in the middle of a polar vortex at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It smelled bad from the get-go. Yeah.
Well, the police got there. He still had a noose around his neck. He knew bleach had been poured on him. How did he know that? And amazingly, he still had his phone and his tuna fish sandwich after fighting off these thugs.
Yeah.
But all during this, Kristen Clark is attacking the prosecutor, the superintendent of the Chicago Police Force, all who are African American people, and defending this obvious hoax. She should be denied a seat to do anything just on, and how can I phrase this? Sheer stupidity. Yeah. Like, if that's the way you think the world works, you shouldn't be doing anything. Okay. Right. Like, get a grip.
Yeah. Let's get to Cuomo now. That's a loaded everything. How do you think this has been going? And it looks like he's going to have to resign at some point, right? Or not, right?
Well, I don't know whether he'll resign. I know they've started impeachment. And as you know, I followed the COVID numbers fairly closely. Mm-hmm. And I actually published the death rate a month before the CDC did. Yeah. And I looked just recently, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but still the lion's share of the deaths, particularly compared with the share of population, they're coming from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And we know that those states were affected early on in the pandemic, and that both Governor Cuomo and Governor Whitmer in Michigan, and also in Pennsylvania, and we need to recall what Connecticut and New Jersey were doing. They were exposing elderly, frail people in nursing homes to COVID infected people. Mm-hmm. they were giving the operators of the nursing homes free passes, and there's a connection there with the campaign donations. And they are hiding the data. And now Cuomo's coming out and saying, well, I didn't want to release the data because I was afraid it was going to be used against me politically.
Yeah.
That's just insane. It's not his data, it's not his information. It's the people of New York, and frankly, it's the people of the United States. And we need to know how this thing was spreading. And it was the taxpayers of the United States of America that converted the Javits Center to a hospital that wasn't used, and brought the Navy ship, I think it was the Comfort, in. And so Cuomo mishandled this. But I think his greatest surprise is that the news reporting media, they switched on him. Remember, they were lionizing this guy. We're going to give this guy an Emmy. Oh, he should be the president. He's the greatest guy. This is
He's got
how
a
you
book
should
too.
do
He's
this.
a book deal or something, right?
And he was killing elderly people. Okay. And now this, look, he's been accused of inappropriate conduct with women now, and there's now more and more coming forward. Look, people had to know about this earlier, and why now? And is that cause for resignation? I'll leave that to other people to decide as that unravels. But to me, it's like, why not this really egregious handling of a public health crisis and then the cover up?
Yeah.
And by the way, in the state of Michigan, much of the same contours are playing out. We have multiple people that have left high positions in the state government of Michigan, now subject to confidentiality agreements for which they were paid with taxpayer money. And they don't have a private part of their job and a public part. It's all public. And Charlie LaDuff, who's a investigative journalist of Summertown, has brought suit against the Whitmer administration, and they're absolutely getting stonewalled. And if you don't have anything to hide, let's see the data. It's public health data compiled by state agencies. What happened, and why would you think you can get away with hiding it? Okay, if you didn't have a problem, let's see it.
Yeah.
If you think you have a problem, you're not going to be able to hide it forever.
You would seem that Whitmer might pick up the phone and talk with Cuomo just to say, how would you have handled this differently from the beginning? I have a feeling she might be going down the same path. I don't know, but
but not if Cuomo resigns over inappropriate sexual conduct and it goes away, then there's no precedent there because as far as I know, nobody's accused Whitmer of anything like that.
Yeah.
But they both have to be held accountable. And again, both of them were media darlings during the time of, bashing the Trump administration. And I mean, I thought that Michigan's governor just got overexposed. She got over her head. I think it took her off what was a good course that she started with.
Yeah.
She started on a pragmatic, reasonable approach, and she's clearly fallen into that partisan line of thinking. And look, you can only get away with this if you think that the reporting industry is not going to call you on it. And she even said something to the effect that she likes all journalists except for Nolan Finley, who is a conservative columnist with the Detroit News, because guess what? He's calling her on it.
Yeah.
So look, we need to get this stuff out, and we're all have an interest in it. If you messed up, come out and tell us you messed up. Tell us what led you to make those decisions. Okay, own up to it, and let's deal with the problem. But the cover up and the denying the public information is an outrage, period.
I agree.
I'm sorry. Did I get out? I might have been ranting too much. But
all right, then finally, we got a big one.
I don't know how this is going to play. Well, you know, Brian, I've told people that they're going to find something to dislike every episode.
Yep.
And in the slim chance that people haven't found it in other episodes. I think I'm going to cover the waterfront today.
You'll catch up on it. Finally, I want to talk about John Sarbanes. He's back in the news again from the
Oh
infamous
my.
Sarbanes-Oxley bill, which is now HR1 for the People Act of 2021. This is loaded, and I know we can go on all night, but what are your general thoughts about this bill? Uh, all of its impacts, good and bad.
Okay. So first of all, it's not Sarbanes was the guy that authored Sarbanes-Oxley, um, which I don't know that anybody's yet been convicted under that in terms of financial management. Did wreak havoc in the financial markets.
Right.
But he's the chief sponsor of the HR1, now known as the For the People Act of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you should mention all night because I was up in the middle of the night and I was doing some reading. And so I read the bill start to finish. And I think we should post the link for anybody that wants to do that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to refer to some of my notes. So first of all, it absolves citizens the responsibility to register to vote in federal elections. States have to automatically register everyone. And the way they get there is they scoop up basically all government records. And there's multiple restrictions on not identifying the agency that supplied the record. And as a person in data systems for a long time, that means there's no way to verify that information. Hey, we've got Brian Kruger in city A, we've got him in city B, which one's right? Well, where did they come from? Don't know. Okay. So it is right from the get-go fraught with problems. It registers 16-year-olds. Okay. Now it doesn't permit them to vote. But if you've ever raised a 16-year-old or been a 16-year-old or understand that the 16-year-old's brain isn't formed yet, that the emotional part's there, you know that's a problem. And what I would liken it to is this: tobacco marketing for decades seized on that same underdeveloped brain. The tobacco companies, this has all been documented. Sierra Coop, when he was Surgeon General, led a lot of this. The tobacco companies knew they were losing their customers and that they had to get them early because most people over the age of 21 don't take up smoking. Okay, and anybody that smokes, ask them when they started. And they were hooked and told this was a good thing before their brains were fully formed. And as I'm reading this bill, I'm saying, oh, same thing. Before your brain's formed, we're going to give you all this. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it makes same-day registration mandatory. Now, there's some pluses to that, but it also, there's a thing called an interstate cross-check to make sure someone's not going, from some of the smaller states that you could go to several in a day. First of all, the interstate cross-check has to be done 6 months before the election. But if you can register on the day, there's literally no way to validate it. And you have to have the voter's full name, including their middle name, the last 4 digits of their social security number. And again, there's no requirement to gather that information. And as somebody that did a lot of matching of human beings in computer systems, from advertising very early in my career to extensively with medical records, I guarantee you can't precisely identify matches. So it sets a bar where matches are not going to be found, and it has to be intentional. It gives states money for, again, activities to encourage the involvement of minors in election activities. It orders states to allow felons to vote. It mandates early voting. It mandates voting by mail with no form of identification to obtain an absentee ballot. But you can't ask for a signature, which actually would cement the fraud in place forever. Oh, and very interesting, it allows bundling. Um, and I'll quote from the law: it may not put a limit on how many voted and sealed absentee ballots any designated person can return to the post office, a ballot drop off like location, tribal designated building, or election office. It would make Washington, D.C. a state. It overrides the state's prerogatives in districting for Congress. The one thing it should have done about trying to bring new technology into voting, there's a vague reference, grants to advance innovations in voting. This is one of my favorites, and I kid you not. There's a subpart called the Honest Ads Act. Okay, and so the online platforms are basically said to be universal and powerful, but it's okay to ban people you don't like. So make up your mind. Is it universal and powerful, or is it a thing you can kick people off? Because it can't be both. A lot of other stuff in there. Here's another one of my favorites: restoring subtitle A. It's called Restoring Integrity to America's Election Act. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't we just hear that all was fine and dandy with the last election?
So nothing needs to be
Why
restored.
do we have to restore integrity? And look, you see a lot of this stuff. A lot of the provisions are aimed at the myths, the facts, the circumstances around Trump's election. It really raises the drawbridge to keep, any outsider from the political world.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll put the link out there.
Yeah.
But you can't, there should be a news reporting on this, just like with the COVID relief bill. That's almost 1/10 of the economy. And they would talk about 2 provisions in it. There's a lot more there, but nobody wants to touch that rail. Mm-hmm. And it's ultimately harmful to middle America.
Right.
And again, beware of the names that people give these bills.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
No, I wanted to finish that thought, but I do want to end up on a positive note. Where are you hopeful? I mean, what do you see that gives you hope? And I saw a few things last night, actually, but
yeah, well, one of the things that I am hopeful, and I'm an eternal optimist, is this: the unionization of Amazon. I'm very hopeful, and I say it based on this: that first of all, real blood and real sacrifice was made for working people to get rights and to get just compensation and to share. And the automotive companies, that was the pinnacle of blue collar employment. If you were in at GM or in at Ford, or Ford's as we like to call it in Detroit, right. you could think you're going to own a home, you're going to have a pension, you're going to have health care, your kids are going to go to college, you're going to have a boat in your driveway. And so when I think, is that the way Amazon, now the largest company in the world with enough market share, okay, to provide that kind of security? I don't hear Amazon blue collar warehouse workers saying, we're really proud to work at Amazon because now we're going to have the boat in the driveway and the vacation cottage and a secure future and good health care. And that, to me, that unionization that is getting support from across the political spectrum, I look at that as a positive sign. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad that we have a president that doesn't send out tweets in the middle of the night.
Right.
That doesn't pick fights. And is this our dream president? No, but I hope he's a great president. He does seem organized. He does seem to be like an executive with actual executive skills. Yep. And he's got a very difficult job. And, everybody wants to talk about his health, which I think is a concern. I just hope that he's allowed to pace himself. We don't need him going touring around the world. People can come to him. We don't need him doing late night state dinners. Okay. This is a guy that's going to be effective if we don't wear him out.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something hopeful. And again, the last thing I would say is that the hyper partisans, some of them getting their comeuppance, that they thought the news media would always be on their side. A great piece in Substack this week from Matt Taibbi, who compares the current journalistic practices in America with Soviet era journalism. And remember, he lived there for, I think, 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
And he said back then it was always heroes or villains. And he did not go on to say that all of a sudden some people would be a villain one day and then become heroes. Okay. John Bolton, Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
And that there are people that would also become, pariahs based on what they might do or what they might say. So I'm hopeful that people are going to start realizing that. And I guess I'll close with this, Brian. A couple fellows that grew up near me, one very much independent, free market entrepreneur, hardworking guy, very, Republican, and another guy, the opposite side, strong union guy, skilled trades. Democrats can do no wrong. These guys go at each other on social media. And I finally said, hey, I said, guys, you realize you're on the same side? I said, as long as the Democratic Party and the Republican Party can keep us arguing with each other and not doing the issues of the day, they got us. Yeah. Okay. As long as we keep consuming news media that feeds that, like we talked about on this show,
for ratings,
they got us. So this is time to break out and ask, what's the policy solution? Not who supports it, not what the headline is, not how bad the people are that oppose it, but what's in it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It'd be a welcome change. I think we can do that. And that's what the Common Bridge is trying to do. Can we deal with the issues of the day? Can we seize the opportunities of the moment? And can we do that with good policy? And can we demand better behavior from those that we elect to serve and from those that we trust to report to us?
Yep. It's great to talk to you again, Rich.
It's always a pleasure, Brian. And these unstructured things are fun. So let's see if we still have an audience when we get done.
We'll try. We got a lot of good guests coming up, though. So maybe it'll be another month.
So. And one little teaser, a couple of authors that highly qualified wrote a book called Nothing is Too Big to Fail. Yeah. And I think this may be a multi-part, but I'm very much looking forward to that. We have an episode coming up on immigration and what's been done over the years. That should air in about a week.
Great.
And I also want to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Richard Ryan, who recently celebrated his 90th birthday on March 5th. Mr. Ryan, I salute you, sir. Love you, and sure glad that you made it to 90 years old.
Great.
This is Rich Helppie. I hope signing off on the Common Bridge, Brian. What do you think?
That sounds good.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Richard Helppie's Common Bridge. Please click the subscribe button below. Also, tune into our podcast, Richard Helppie's Common Bridge, on Apple, iHeart, Amazon, and others. Also, be sure to visit us online at richardhelppie.com.